a continuation of We Cannot Stop Speaking. But first, please do me a favor and hit the subscribe button if you didn't do so yet. Like, comment, and share it with a friend. All right, let's begin. Saturday mornings at the local market were always loud. Vendors shouted specials from every corner. Music played from small speakers outside shops. Cars squeezed through crowded streets, while people carried grocery bags and takeaway coffees through the busy sidewalks. Elijah walked beside Daniel and Micah, carrying a small paper bag filled with bread and fruit. Micah pointed toward a nearby coffee stand. "I'm telling you right now, if we don't get coffee, I'm not surviving today." Daniel laughed. "You say that every week." "Because every week it's true." Elijah smiled quietly while the three walked through the crowd together. Life felt lighter lately. Not easier, but lighter. The prayer room continued growing. More people kept showing up. Stories of answered prayers and changed lives quietly spread through the neighborhood. And with it, more attention came too. As they passed a convenience store near the corner, Elijah suddenly recognized someone standing outside. Mr. Daniels, one of the neighbors from the apartment building. The same man who once banged on Elijah's door, furious about the prayer meetings. The man noticed them immediately. His expression hardened. "Well," he muttered sarcastically, "the pastors are out shopping today." Micah rolled his eyes quietly. Elijah stayed calm. "Morning, sir," Mr. Daniels scoffed. "You people still making noise every Friday night?" Daniel shifted uncomfortably. "We've tried keeping it quieter," Elijah replied gently. But the man continued, "I see random people going in and out of that apartment every week." Several nearby shoppers glanced over curiously now. Mr. Daniels crossed his arms. "You young people act like you're changing the world because you sing songs and pray." Micah clenched his jaw slightly. Elijah noticed immediately. He placed a hand gently on Micah's shoulder before things escalated. "We're just trying to help people," Elijah said calmly. The older man laughed bitterly. "Help people?" He shook his head. "If prayer fixed things, the world wouldn't look like this." His words hung heavily in the air. For a brief moment, Elijah didn't know what to say. 'Cause honestly, sometimes he still wrestled with questions like that too. Then suddenly, a weak voice interrupted nearby. "Excuse me." Everyone turned. An elderly woman sat carefully on a bench a few steps away, holding onto her side painfully. Her grocery bags rested beside her feet. She looked exhausted. "I'm sorry," she said softly. "I couldn't help overhearing." She looked toward Elijah nervously. "You pray for people?" The entire sidewalk suddenly felt quiet. Mr. Daniels looked awkward now. Elijah stepped closer gently. "Yes, ma'am." The woman winced slightly, trying to adjust herself on the bench. "My back has been hurting badly for weeks," she whispered. "The doctors gave me medication, but..." Her voice trailed off. Micah immediately stepped forward. "Can we help you with your bags?" She smiled weakly. "Thank you." Daniel grabbed the grocery bags while Elijah knelt beside the bench carefully. Crowds moved around them while cars passed nearby. Right there in the middle of the busy sidewalk, everything suddenly felt still. The woman looked embarrassed. "You don't have to make a scene," Elijah smiled softly. "We're not here to perform." Micah and Daniel stood beside him quietly. Then Elijah asked gently, "Can we pray for you?" The woman hesitated, then slowly nodded. Several people nearby glanced over curiously now. Even Mr. Daniels remained standing there watching silently. Elijah lowered his head slightly. "Lord, you see her pain." The city noise faded into the background. "Bring her peace. Bring her strength. Touch her body," Daniel quietly added. "And remind her she's not forgotten." Micah whispered softly, "You still heal hearts and lives." The prayer wasn't loud, wasn't dramatic, but something about it felt real, warm, peaceful. When they finished, the elderly woman slowly wiped tears from her eyes. Then carefully, she stood up straighter. Her face shifted slightly in surprise. She moved her shoulders carefully, then her back. Again, the woman blinked rapidly. "It doesn't hurt." Micah looked shocked. Daniel stared quietly. Elijah's eyes widened slightly too. The woman twisted carefully again as if testing it. Then suddenly she laughed through tears. "It really doesn't hurt." People nearby began slowing down, watching now. The elderly woman covered her mouth emotionally. "I haven't stood comfortably like this in weeks." Mr. Daniel stood frozen nearby, speechless. The woman reached for Elijah's hand tightly. "Thank you." But Elijah shook his head gently. "Thank God." The woman smiled with tears in her eyes before slowly walking away with Daniel helping carry her bags. And for a long moment, nobody spoke, not even Mr. Daniels. Finally, the older man cleared his throat awkwardly, then quietly muttered, "Have a good day," before walking away. Micah stared after him. That was unbelievable. Daniel looked overwhelmed too. Elijah remained standing silently in the middle of the sidewalk, because deep inside, he realized something important. This was exactly what happened in Acts of the Apostles, chapter 5. The disciples weren't trying to become famous. They simply carried the presence of God into ordinary places, streets, markets, homes, crowded cities, and lives changed wherever God moved through them. The next week, Friday, the apartment overflowed again during prayer gathering. Everyone listened closely while Micah retold what happened at the market. Some cried, some smiled in amazement. But Elijah sat quietly near the window thinking deeply, because the greatest miracle wasn't just healing. It was watching hope return to people's eyes again, watching strangers encounter kindness, watching broken people believe God still sees them. Elijah opened his Bible slowly to Acts chapter 5 again, and this verse stood out to him. More and more people believed. He smiled softly to himself, because now he understood why. Not because the disciples were perfect, but because people could see God was real.